Hey all, I hope you all doing well. Well, here's another video. Quarantine vlogs, literally. So we're still under quarantine in the United States, and it is 11th, 11th 2020, and we are still under quarantine. But I thought I should make this video, and I hope you can grab something and sit down so you don't get bored. I love doing talking videos. They're so much easier, but I feel like they're full of substance most of the time. But anyway, so I told my friend I was gonna make this video because guess what? It's the first week that my children have been, really second week that my children have moved on to live on their own. Luke went back to school, but he's living in an apartment because he's kind of like in his last year of college, and so I'm assuming that he probably won't be back home unless there's a real need for it. Most universities at this point I have classes online, but he decided to move out anyway because he just wants to be around other college students and not be, not be basically at home. And kid has her own apartment. She's busy finishing right now. Actually, I've seen the stuff behind me right now that's for her apartment that she bought online but had it sent home because she wasn't sure exactly when she was going to move, and so she's gonna come and pick up the stuff. But I wanted to talk about raising children again. I just want to put it out in front that I'm not an expert in this. I'm just gonna talk about myself, what lessons I've learned about raising children that I wish I had known at the time that my children were young, because as you know, both my children are grown now. So really that what's the saying, when something is out of the gate, the horse has left the stable. And so at this point, I really just am looking forward to being a grandparent and apply some of the things that I've learned over the years of raising my children. Really, I didn't learn. It's more like a 2020, I feel like, first of all, let me just say this. Sorry, I'm going to be all over the show with this video because it's really more of a, like this, just me just sharing basically. So there's no structure to it. But what I was going to say is having grandkids is really an opportunity for you to be a parent again, so to speak, because you get to do things differently. You are invested, but invested totally different than if they were your children, like your direct children, they're your grandkids. And so you're kind of given an opportunity. So that's why I'm rooting for one day to have grandkids that can live with me, or at least be close enough to me that I can, apply some of the things that I'm going to be talking about in this video. So, but anyway, so both my kids are out of the house, and I can talk about them now, okay? I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just going to talk about things really that I've learned over the years that I wish I had known when I was a young parent. So just to, again, preface things, I was a young parent. Both my husband and I were young parents. We raised our children, and I feel like we did a great job. We're very proud of our children. We love our children. And we feel very lucky to have been their parents and have, had an opportunity to raise them. And it doesn't mean that, they were perfect or they are perfect. No one is perfect. None of us are perfect. So I cannot expect perfection from anyone, let alone my children. I can't even expect it from myself. So again, really some of the things that I've learned that, perfection is not something that we strive for as humans. We strive for, peace, love, happiness, all the beautiful things that we should all be striving for. And none of those things include, what we think of when we think of, perfection. But anyway, so yeah, So my friend and I were talking, and I told her, I said, I'll make the video because, again, I feel like I'm in a position that I can. We're talking about children and how, you know, what I could have done differently. And we're talking about really, because we feel like most parents, that our children are very smart. Okay, pretty much really all children are smart. All humans are smart. It's just that, just like plants, something I learned from my gardening, just like plants, you need the right environment to thrive, right? Right type of things to thrive. But one of the things that I learned, because both my children are very brilliant people, they still are, but they were even more brilliant when I was young. They were young, and I was literally involved in how they did everything. I never really had to work hard for my children's education because we're both very gifted kids. But one of the things that I try to do, from the excitement, you know, like of knowing that I have two gifted children here, I wanted to kind of steer them in a certain direction. And really basically what I want to tell you is that I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I had really just been supportive. And I'm using the word excitement because really it's not that you're not supportive, but you're too excited and you kind of want to be a hands-on parent. And sometimes that can be too much for kids. You know, like, again, I've been very fortunate because my children, even though I was in their life, very much in their lives, they could handle that. And maybe if I could have done things differently, would be to say, okay, you guys are handling school, are doing very well in school, but maybe I can focus in other areas where they may need help, because as I said, nobody is perfect. So for me, I grew up, you know, like in South Africa, and one of the things that my mom wanted the most for us was education. So that's the value I placed over everything. Gotta get education, you gotta education. So when you have brilliant children, you gotta understand that they kind of have the things that they want figured out, and your job is to support them in a way that says, okay, you found what you love and what you enjoy, you know, what else can I do to add to that? I mean, that would be the kind of support, not, oh, no. You like, let's say, what would be like art? Because most parents tend to want to persuade their children away from, let's say, art, because they're thinking, excuse me, I don't want to have a starving artist here. I don't want to have, you know, like, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me drink. I'm having tea. But anyway, so they want to steer their children away from, you know, like the careers that are not going to provide for them. For me, you add the most like powerful thing. What motivated me was that I grew up very poor. So I know what it's like to be poor, okay? So I took basically all those fears about growing up being very poor and said to my children, these are the things I don't ever want you to be, in terms of like how you make choices and stuff like that. And really, in doing so, I kind of basically projected my own fears on them. Remember, as parents, we grow up under different circumstances, right? And our children, and as a result, we have different motivations than our children. Our children grow up in different circumstances than we grew up, even ever so slightly. They grow up in different circumstances. The times have changed. There are different social pressures, different types of pressures, that type of thing. So for me, I was always, you know, like thinking from the perspective of I grew up poor, so I just want to make sure that you are doing the right thing, even when they were doing the right thing. my fears were overwhelming me to a point where I was projecting those fears on them. And we do that a lot as parents. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a fear of your children hanging out with the wrong crowd, that type of thing. We don't trust, especially when you have very smart kids, we don't trust our children from an early age. And I know I was not a helicopter parent, and I really want to make this distinction. I was not really a helicopter parent, because I believe that you need to kind of have a little bit of freedom as a human being in order for you to thrive. But I was always being the one who gives unsolicited advice from my kids, because I was always fearful that, oh, you know, I really don't want you to make bad decisions, you know, that type of thing. And so I guess that's what I wanted to the point that I wanted to make sure that your children have the space and time that they need, and also check yourself to make sure that you're not imparting your own or projecting your own fears on them. You must really truly trust them. But above all, so that's the formal side of it. And again, there's no silver bullet when it comes to parenting. That gives me, that really is lesson number 2. There's no silver bullet when it comes to parenting. You can do everything right, okay? And you can do, and your children will turn out horribly, okay? And you could also do everything wrong, and your children could turn out perfectly. What's important is your children must make their own decision, must own their own decisions. And I say that because that's a very empowering thing. One of the things I didn't take part in was deciding which colleges my children were going to, or really just deciding what they eventually do. My strategy has always been to say, okay, this is my advice to you, but ultimately, and you can factor my advice in, but ultimately it's your decision what you do. That way I wanted them to own up to their decision, because that's how I did everything growing up. I pretty much made my own decisions, because my mom, she really said, go get an education, and that's all she had to do. And she really was not in a position to help me, you know, other than, you know, like to say, okay, at my job, they have scholarship, that type of thing. Maybe you can apply for that type of thing. And you still had to do exceptionally well in order to get it, that type of thing. So, but the point I'm making is that I made sure that my children kind of own up to at least that part of their life. So for me, I was very comfortable with that side of our relationship, just talking about careers and how to move forward as they grow, okay? One of the things I didn't pay too much attention was their personal lives, because personal life. The point I'm making is that if they wanted to form relationships, I didn't put too much stress on making sure that, you know, like what type of people they hang with, that type of thing, because again, I trusted them enough, because I felt like they were brilliant children. But brilliance and wisdom are two different things. So as they got older, like maybe even older than they needed to be, I stressed wisdom over, you know, like being intellectually just intellectually strong, meaning intelligent person. When it comes to school, I wanted them to be wise as well, to know that life is not only about grades and doing well in school, but also about other parts of your life. You need to take care of all of those things, because I used to say to them, you know, I know you guys have access to books and everything, and great education and all those things, but ultimately, I feel like kids who grew up in Africa are so wise. And I never really gave that a thought, but that's something totally I needed to give a thought and really stress that wisdom. By wisdom, I mean, not, yes, it takes wisdom to know that you must do well in school. You must, you know, like work hard. You must stay focused. You must stay off, you know, like drugs. You must stay off, you know, like, make sure that you choose your friends wisely, that type of thing. But again, I never really went beyond that. Like, okay, at some stage, you know, because in Africa, a lot of things are expected, right? I mean, here in America too, maybe not make Africa so exotic, but in Africa, like, we have certain expectations by certain time of your life, okay? If you become a girl you become a young man, just like, let's say Mexican have quinceañeras, I think that's how you pronounce it, or, you know, like Jewish people have bar mitzvah. I don't know how to pronounce these words, but you know what I mean. The thing that Jewish people do for their young men, and do they do it for women? I don't know, sorry. I know I come across as very ignorant right now, but we have similar things in our culture where when you get to a certain stage, as a result, in Africa, they don't recognize your birthdays. We didn't celebrate birthdays. That's something foreign to us, to celebrate birthdays. We celebrated stages of life. For instance, when you're born, we celebrated. When you became a young man, a man, we celebrated for boys. When you become a young woman, when you have your first period and stuff like that, which at the time it was around 15 years old, maybe 13 years old, around there and onwards. And then when you get married, when you have children, you know, like when you get old, when, you know, like you die, we celebrate stages of life. We didn't pay attention to your age. As a result, people would call you by, like, for instance, here's the thing that they did. When we have rituals and stuff like that, they would have something like where they say all women who are married of a certain age should eat together. Or I shouldn't say not certain age, but young women, newlyweds, that type of thing. Old people should eat together, children should eat together, teenagers should eat together, that type of thing. So we were grouped by basically stages of life. So that's how we celebrated everything. So the expectation was that when you reach a certain stage in life, you're supposed to act a certain way. And so we didn't have to teach that, because you observe that, you know, okay, I'm a man now. Everybody recognize that I'm a man now. I'm a young man now. I'm supposed to act a certain way. And so that was the wisdom, African wisdom, basically. And I'm sure in other cultures as well, they have those types of wisdoms. I know that, like, in the generic Western culture, it's not very much emphasized. You know what I mean? You become an adult and you pay your bills. That's what it means to be an adult. But in Africa, it was more of, you become an adult, you're supposed to act like an adult. I guess paying bills is acting like you're adult. But you could be 13 years old with a YouTube channel and making millions. In Africa, your parents will be making decisions for you. But anyway, I'm just kidding. But the point I'm making is that wisdom, these are the things that you need to work on and not assume, especially in this age where there's so many influences and stuff like that. Having said that, my children, again, I have no complaints, to be honest with you, because they're just like very much focused kids, and maybe too much focused on making sure that they become, you know, like successful. But I don't think in life you should ignore the other parts of your life. I guess that's what I'm saying. And that's something I could have probably worked more on as a parent when they were young. Okay. So that's probably one of the things that we talked about. So this is really to say that ultimately, when you have kids, you just have to trust them enough to let them make their own decisions, really allow them to fail so that they can learn, in hopes that they learn, right? Because you hope. Because I know parents who go to the extreme, that's why I was saying there's no silver bullet. You have to, if anything, I should say, you have to pay attention to your child, what kind of a child they are, what kind of personality they have. Again, I spent enough time with my children. I know who they are, at least, you know, like personal, I know who they are. But paying attention to their personality and their, you know, like their who they are rather than what the society and the world thinks they should be, right? And I sound like I'm contradicting myself, but the point I'm making is that you trust them and you support them, not support the idea of who you think they should be, but support them. That's something that's important, because a lot of parents, I think the mistake we make is we either swing the pendulum too much to the other side, so to speak, or to the extreme. We're either too lax, or to me, being lax is not the same as giving your child independence, right? I've always given unsolicited advice, but one thing I've learned to do as my children got a lot older, and I'm using those words because some parents believe their children at 10, 13 years old are old enough. I was not like that, okay? I was like, okay, I'm a parent, you know, like African parents. I was an African parent. I'm a parent. You're going to do as I say, at least when it comes to these things. And that's definitely some parents, I know some of my kids' friends, their parents were too lax, to a point where I was like, I don't know if I want my kids to, you know, like to be around those people. But again, I had to trust my own kids, at least to a point. I'm not saying that you should let a drug addict be around your children if that's, you know, like if that's what you think, meaning letting your children make their own decisions, that type of thing. But at least have some boundaries, but they should be healthy boundaries. And so I did try to do that as my children got older. I would say, this is my 2 cents. Ultimately, it's your decision. And I think that I really wish I had learned is, don't try to give your children what you did not have, okay? And I try to be balanced on this, but I want to stress for other parents, because when you grow up poor, wanting, I'm not talking about needs now, because needs are things like basic shelter, and most of us do have that. So when we say poor, really, we mean that line between having not having the needs met and not having the wants met, right? And so, like, I had times where we struggled. I recall them very well. And then most of the time, at least our needs were met. But when I had my children and I had the money, I'm not rich, and I don't want to give the wrong impression there, please, people. And I'm sure you're not thinking that I'm rich. I'm just pointing that out in case someone was thinking that. But the point I wanted to make is that when my kids were a lot, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Oh, I wanted to give my children anything that they asked for and I could afford, okay? And so, like, when my children were growing up, I would buy them so many clothes, because I didn't have clothes. I didn't have a lot of nice clothes growing up, and I always wanted to have nice clothes. And I would, you know, like, go crazy, literally. I wanted to make sure that they had clothes, you know, as much as I could. But I could have really said, instead of doing that, I could have said, hey guys, here's your allowance. And figure out what you want to do with it, and just use the money wisely. And I believe, because remember, I said we are motivated by different things as different generations. My children were not motivated by poverty the same way I was motivated by poverty to get out of poverty. They were motivated by other things, like, I want knowledge. Like, literally, I was going to school to pass so I can get to the next level. That's literally, I mean, I shouldn't say that because I come across very badly now, but I believe in education, and I believe that you should go to school to learn, not to get grades only. But looking back now, I feel like that's what I was doing, because I was more interested in doing well in school, grades wise, so I can go to the next level and I can get the opportunity. So maybe it wasn't the knowledge that was motivating me, but for them it is getting that knowledge, whatever that means, right? And so So, but I could have said to my children, here's the money, here's your allowance, do something with it. Maybe my children could have been investors, my children could have been, they could have saved all their money, that type of thing they could have done, or they could have donated the money. But I wanted him to dress well and all of that. So what I'm trying to get to is that sometimes, again, because I was coming from that background, for me, it was, you know, like that was a motivator, being able to dress well and not have to worry about stuff. So I wanted my children to have that. So I could have done things differently in that sense. So when you can get to that point where poverty and things like that don't motivate you, or at least don't motivate you. I know I'm swallowing all my words right now, because that's what happens when I'm animated and really focused on the subject and trying to get as much out as possible. But yeah, make sure that your children, you know, sorry, I've been going on for a while. Make sure that your children like you don't use those same motivations and think that they are motivation. In fact, my children didn't care for clothes. They still don't care. To them, clothes is just something to wear. I have to force them to say, can you guys dress up a little, you know, like they really don't think that's something important for them. They just want to go to school, study something, and go out and have some good food, because they, despite my thinking that I'm a great cook, they rather eat out a lot of times because they can choose exactly what they want. So they like to do that. So that's probably one of the things we enjoy the most as a family. I shouldn't say that, but we do like to go out to nice restaurants when we can, and you know, like have a wonderful time. The best times we've spent with our kids have been in our kitchen table, whether we're eating good food or not so good food, but just chatting and spending as much quality, almost quantity time with them. So those were probably, you know, like my best memories with them. And, you know, like I hope that will continue into the future. I can't even summarize this video because I was just literally just having a discussion as to, you know, some of the lessons I wish I had learned. And I hope that you pick something from this video and run with it. If anything, I would like for you to take from this video is wisdom is not something that we can neglect. It's nice to have all the other things, like, you know, educational success, you know, like career success and stuff like that, but you still want your children to be well-rounded and trust your children enough to make good decisions at an early age. Teach them to make good decisions so you don't have to hover over them. Having said that, as I said, I never really had to do that with my children, but I could probably did it better than how I did it, if anything. And so and also make sure that, you know, like they are just like pursue happiness more than anything. Something that, again, I didn't stress in life, because for me life was always about survival. Happiness was the last thing in my mind. It's about survival, getting to the next level, not ambition wise, but just being able to survive and live at least what I consider a comfortable life for myself. So yeah, all those things are important, and I hope that when you see this video, you've watched it all to the end. If you have things that you would like other people to know that parents can do better, and by the way, I don't read books about experts about how to raise your children, because I'm really afraid of messing my own psychology up by trying to fit into those narratives. So what I've done is really just saying, I'm just gonna wait for my grandkids, and I can, you know, like I can get an opportunity maybe to do things differently. And my husband, as you know, he's saying he cannot wait to have someone to teach golf to, because he failed to teach golf Luke when Luke was young. So, but anyway, we just joke about it, but ultimately, I'm very, very grateful to have been a parent. to my children, and you know, like learn from them. They know I'm far from perfect, and I know that they're far from perfect, but we have a great foundation which is based on love, respect, and you know, like love for each other as a family. And I tried to impart as many values that I could, you know, like without necessarily okay, they will say I overdid it. Doesn't matter. I did what I felt I needed to do. But anyway, yeah, I hope everything is good, and I don't forget to thumbs this video up. I know I went too long. Who cares? Let's have discussion below. Okay, bye.